Just a few more people coming in. Fantastic. There's so many familiar faces here. I love it. And there's also faces that I don't know yet, but that's fine. Hey, Jake. All right. Okie dokie, we're going to get started. Is this working? Can I get you to slide over to the clicker? There we go. Okay. It's not clicking, but that's okay. Sometimes the clicker doesn't work, I guess. That's fine. All right, come on in, guys. Thank you so much. If there's any advice you guys want to get from Web3, it is to watch out for the guy in pink, because he sometimes drops knowledge bombs that you don't know if they're good or not until you think about it. But anyway, thanks everyone for coming. We are the Aussie DeFi Association. Been around since December last year and have started doing Meetup since March. I'm going to walk around just because, there's certain parts that I can't get out of because we are streaming online, folks. So we'll have some people online watching. We're also going to be recording this, so we will have a recording out on YouTube hopefully by next week. This is not our first rodeo, but it always feels like our first rodeo whenever we do this. So you'll see me, if you get here early, always scrambling around trying to sort things out. So if anyone wants to help out with these events, we are looking for that kind of stuff as well. But before we start, I want to acknowledge and do the welcome to country. I'll begin today by acknowledging the Gadigal people on the land on which we stand, the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather today, and pay my respects to their elders past, present, and future. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples here today. So this is the Oz DeFi Meetup. Please scan the QR code for all the various kind of links and stuff like that. You know, QR codes are fun that way. Sometimes they don't work because we use the free ones. Like I know there's services out there that you can use, but stuff it, like just get a new free one. So once you've done that, let's go to the next one, please, Ash. And everybody acknowledge Chris and Ash who are helping produce this for us. People on screen, people at home cannot see them, but you know, if you watch, we've got a YouTube channel, so there are, you know, you'll have seen Chris and Ash is going to get on there as well and do some cool stuff. So today, introductions, blah, 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 interviews. We've got a few people presenting stuff today and a few other announcements. So let's get underway. And the guy to my left here is Numbers, or Arturo, and so co-founder of Oz DeFi along with a few others and myself. So, let's go to the next one, please, if that works. There we go. We're at 1,000 members now. So congratulations, everyone. Thank you. We had 10 people when we first started, and it was a WhatsApp group. Then when it got to 20, and you didn't look at the WhatsApp group for a day, there was like 200 messages. And like, what the heck? We need to do something more. I was like, maybe we'll go to Facebook. So we didn't even have a Discord. We actually went to Facebook to begin with, but no one was really going on the Facebook. They wanted to just go and talk about investments. They didn't want to talk about building stuff. Come on in. There's more chairs here and stuff, and also upstairs. Thank you. And so 1,000 members, and we've done some incredible events. We are now in 5 states. And so Arturo and I have sacrificed to fly up and have sleepless hours. And, you know, as much as you hate being away from the family, I'm sure that it is a sacrifice well worth it. We did the awesome Women in Web3 event. We'll show you some photos from that. We had a Victorian event. There's an upcoming event there on October. There's a calendar as well that we're going to show you, and there's links to that. And who here is going to the Aussie Crypto Con in September? Okay, there's a few. Who here wants to go? Okay, that's fantastic. Come see me after school because you're in trouble. No, I mean, I might be able to help you out with tickets and stuff. Okay, so come see me. Next slide, please. Thank you, Ash. Magic. Let's go. So last night, this is fresh, hot off the press. We did an event with Starkware. So if you guys didn't know, they're the company that basically Immutable is built on top of, right? And even though StarkNet is not on mainnet yet, there's a lot of testing going on. It's a layer 2 scaling solution, and Arturo can explain it a little bit better. So why don't I actually get you up here and you can tell the crowd a little bit about what we did last night.
Hi guys. I just want to point out that we are...
In the flags. Yeah.
We have flags there. For those of you that were not here yesterday, we actually filled out the place yesterday, almost. So it's 2 nights in a row that actually people fill up this place, which I think is an achievement. We were a bit worried. Now, yesterday's event was pretty special because it was the first one that we went down into a little bit more technical space. And we wanted to kind of explain some basics into, how does the blockchain work, and not only because it's a one-on-one, but to explain how zero knowledge proofs kind of have an effect on roll-ups, and why ETH2, for example, is going to cost the same thing as ETH1, a common misconception that people think the opposite, and so forth. And we were really lucky because during that entire conversation, we had a panel where 2 devs, 1 lawyer, we were bouncing around ideas, and then Yuri, the CEO of Starkware, jumps in and starts talking about that. Quick question here. How many people are first-timers tonight? Okay, that's pretty good. So I think that one of the things that we've been doing a lot within these meetups is to try to engage people within the audience, because the entire premise of this group is to get people talking. It's kind of why we set up the Discord, and we want people to share their ideas because there are other people within the group, not only us, that can actually help you get to the right idea or get to the right execution and so forth. Just as a side note before I be quiet, because I never shut up, is that one of the things that we do within Not Centralized is work as a venture studio. And apart from the shill, the important piece of information here is that we work a lot with different groups to try to figure out how to get their idea into that next stage. A big part of that is understanding what the execution of the project is. And you don't really get to the point of understanding what execution actually is until you actually come and talk to people within the community. So building in the open is super important. It's the only way that you mitigate the risk of not having product market fit, as you do constantly in Web 2. So again, reach out to me, anybody else, just join the Discord, talk to people, and we're all gonna make it, I guess.
Wag me, I like it. I've been instructed by Chris I need to turn one of these mics off and on again. So there you go. Web3, you still do like Web2 IT. So it's coming back on, Chris. You good? Oh no. He's silent, and that's not a good thing. But that's only for the backup. The blue light is on here, yeah. We're going to edit this out, people watching online. It's fine. It'll be... Okay, it's all part of the show, so all smooth. But it's okay. We do need it. We don't need it. Doesn't matter. All right. If we can go to the next slide, please, Ash. Thank you. Oh, so this is the Women in Web3 event. This was up in Queensland, and so you can see some of the awesome speakers that we had, and then that was the venue. A bit smaller. It was a nice little pub just on the outskirts of Brisbane and stuff. So we're still looking for a home in Brisbane, so we don't quite have that yet, but hopefully we will secure something pretty soon in Melbourne. It's not official, but we're probably going to be doing all our future events in Melbourne at a place called Upside Down. Well, the group is called Upside Down. They've got a 5-level factory just east of Melbourne, and Banxa is there. There's a couple of other Web3 startups there, Caleb and Brown, which is a Web3 investment fund, like they're there. So we will probably do stuff out there. So if you guys are traveling, the idea is that if you're in a different state, we may have an event, but we've got a calendar that looks at not only our events, but also other people's as well, so other groups. Let's go to the next one. And so this was our last meetup. It feels like ages ago because we've had so many meetups in between. Before we were only doing New South Wales, and so we just had the last month's meetup, and then we wait another 30 days or 4 weeks. But Arturo was still wearing the same. Are you chiming? Oh, is it? Oh, right. It looks pink to me. I'm colorblind. But Leo, that you can see up there interviewing Jake, who's here, is our chapter lead along with Nick, who's traveling at the moment. And so Leah couldn't make it today, but she's usually here. So you'll see very familiar faces as part of the Oz DeFi group and stuff. So let's go to the next one. That was our last meetup. And then in Victoria, we did an event as well. And this is at a pub. It's a cocktail place, so it's a bit more classy. It's just as dark. But it's interesting because the crowd in Melbourne is pretty feisty, would you say, Arturo? Belligerent, that's the word. But it's in a good way, not to, rivalry kind of stuff. Yes, it's a Melbourneite right there. But, it felt like what we were told anyway was that they didn't have as many DeFi-related events, and so they were waiting for something like this. I know there's been blockchain. William was running. William upstairs, say hello. If you people can see him, yep. So we were, doing some events there, and in the middle of just talking, there's already hands up. I'm like, I'm just doing the intro. Like, fuck, just wait, relax. But it was good because, as Arturo said, there's a lot of back and forth. And so today we're going to have a few presentations, but feel free if there's questions. We're going to run around with the mic. It's very COVID safe, so we're just going with the one mic. Chris I know I've got to buy some more equipment so that we can actually do this proper, but at least this works for now, okay? So we'll go to the next slide, please. And then one of the other things we did in July was the Sydney Web3 Summit. Put your hands up if anyone that went to Fishburners for that. There's a few people. Okay, very, very cool. So that was about 150, maybe 170 people there. They had prize money. There was $10,000 worth of Bitcoin given away by Mike Angel from Fractal. And so that was a really awesome thing. JubiDAO won. Ash is part of JubiDAO and has been up here on stage talking about that. If you guys are looking to raise money via SAFs in a Web3 way, Ash is your guy, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more in podcasts and whatnot. So we'll go to the next one. And as I said, upcoming events. So that QR code, I don't know if I've actually put it up there. It should be, but there is a calendar. Or you can go to Oz DeFi's Twitter, and it's the pinned post right at the top. So this calendar, which is just in Notion, has actually inspired other calendars in Notion. So we did this because we wanted to keep a track of all the Web3 meetups going on, not just here in New South Wales or that we knew of, but what are others doing as well? So people have been adding to that. You can see, this needs to be updated, but Blockchain Sydney's got a whole heap of stuff. The biggest thing upcoming in September is the Aussie Crypto Con, okay? And then we've got the meetups around the 5 states. The next one's going to be New South Wales at the end of September. We're going to skip Brisbane because they're going to focus on Aussie Crypto Con, and then Melbourne is going to have something on the 4th of October. Adelaide and Perth, we're working out when those ones are. So if anyone travels, hands up, who travels to interstate for work or whatever? A few of you. So there might be a chance that whilst you're there, you can come to one of these DeFi meetups too. And then we do Twitter Spaces every Monday. So, join in. It's really tiring trying to keep up with all this kind of stuff, but, it keeps us energized, so we'll keep doing it. And we'll go to the next one. And I think, okay, so Simo, can I get you up here, please? So, in honour, beer's fine, have a seat. In honour of getting to 1,000 members, we're like, well, who's a really good designer in this space? And if you don't know who Simo is, NFT Sid, we met through you guys starting that. And if you guys were here earlier in the year, there was an NFT Sid event down in Barangaroo, which was amazing. But Simo, can you tell us, the crowd, like, what was the inspiration for these NFTs, which are still being designed right now, but this is in honor of, us getting to 1,000 members. What was the inspiration?
Okay, I'll try to make it brief. I haven't prepared this, but the inspiration is like trying to capture, the ethos and vision of some of the DeFi people. So you can, analyze different personas, such as, the degen, the community builder, the woman in Web3, analyst, etc. And the idea was trying to find out a way to create something that is valuable, and probably nowadays having an avatar that is a 3D model is probably one of the most valuable things that you can have, because perhaps in the future you can plug into the metaverse We have like plenty of metaverse. I'm not sure if we can scale this, like, you know, to the point to reach each and every different standards, but yeah, that's the vision. So yeah, thank you.
Very humble. You're the most humble Italian I know, which is weird, right? You don't usually think of them that way. But no, he is. So Simo teaches architecture at UNSW, is it?
University of Sydney.
Okay.
University of Sydney, yeah.
Okay, I don't want to get his employees in trouble.
There is like a little bit of...
Okay, there's a bit of a rivalry there. So that's cool, that's cool. We're going to dig into that in the therapy session later. But the point is that we are also going to do... Oh, yeah, I'm going to mention the swag. Thank you, Arturo. So there's going to be not just the NFTs, but there's also swag that comes with that. So we're going to specially design a hoodie with some designs on it, some wording, some maybe a bit of WAGMI, maybe a bit of like some stuff, you know, relating to Web3 on there. And that's going to be an exclusive one that only NFT holders can get. And this is the Genesis one for us. It's a way for the community to see what it's like to create an NFT. We're going to be documenting some of the process and stuff as well, so people can learn from what it was that we've done. And who knows, if this goes well, it could turn into other things. And there's no, like, you might want to own all of the different NFT types that we've got. I think we've got 5 different types with different traits. You might want to own all 5 of those. Feel free to. You know, it's going to be open. It'll probably be on OpenSea, so it's just easy to get. And we'll walk people through who want to buy it to get access to this and the hoodie. So let's. So everybody, thanks Simo for designing these, and we'll see more hopefully soon. Thank you, mate. All right, let's go to the next one. I think, oh, right, the fun stuff. I can't remember who was being interviewed first, and some people like Sam was like, am I going up first, or is it Katrina? It might be, you might be first, I don't know, so we'll see. Randomizer, let's see. It is Sam from Londex. Where are you, Sam? Come on down. And as Sam comes down the stairs, he is wearing some white laced-up shoes with a pair of blue jeans and a really nice, is that a Helly Hansen shirt? I love it, I love it. I only ever see them big jackets. I didn't know they do t-shirts too. Okay, cool. Have a seat, have a seat. So we're going to talk about, so this is a part of the interview type things where we get to know people in the community that are doing some cool things, whether you're getting started or you're a bit more mature, we're all in it together. And I know that there's the whole WAGMI, we're all going to make it thing, but I think the one that we're preferring at the moment is Gwami. I don't know if you guys have heard GWAMI, Gwami, gotta work and make it. Well, Sam is one of those guys that is working to make it. So we're going to learn a bit more about him. I'm going to hand the mic to you, but can you first of all tell us what brought you into Web3? What were you doing before?
Thanks, mate. Well, like a lot of people, I came into Web3 because a mate of mine at the gym said to me, hey, you should buy some crypto. This was about 18 months ago now. And I said, well, what should I buy? And he goes, don't worry, just buy Ethereum and Cardano. Sure, so I did that. And then asked him, so what does this stuff actually do? And he couldn't tell me, so I then had to go and research it myself. So that's how most people end up in blockchain, I think, or in crypto investing anyway. From that point, I then decided that I wanted to learn a little bit more about the technology, find out what it was. After losing pretty much all of that money that I invested in the first place, I thought, well, I should probably do a little bit of research now. And was fascinated by the way the technology works. I've never been, Mark and I had a coffee a couple of months ago, and we both agree that, or I'm definitely not an anarchist. I think a lot of people think that if you're in Web3, you've got to be an anarchist, you've got to be against the establishment, all that sort of stuff. I know, we're going to have a great panel one day. Yeah. I'm definitely not one to, I guess, shake the tree too much, but I do see where Web3 can make technology better, and definitely create a better platform for people to develop their own technologies and their own products. Because I think we focus a lot on moving money in Web3, but we don't necessarily focus on how we can make businesses work better, or just things that people want to do and make and all those sorts of things. but don't know how to do it. So after doing a little bit of research, I then ended up working in a couple of community teams, and it was pure degen land. It was working for, I don't really want to mention a couple of them, but yeah, working for a couple of community tokens that are dead now, and then moving on to, sorry?
It doesn't matter, they're dead now. So you
Okay, so one of them is still around. I worked with Million Token.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah, exactly.
Hands up who's heard of Million Token?
I got a million tokens.
Okay.
As a millionaire, right? That's the tech lead one. Yeah. So very simple premise was it was 1 million tokens, and he said he was funding it with $1 million of liquidity. It was actually 50 grand. Bit of a difference there. But I learned a fair bit about community there, and I was speaking to degen investors, and then from there moved on to another token, which was pure meme, Baby Cake. But what I learned from Baby Cake was how quickly you just need to hold on to this thing sometimes. Baby Cake in the space of 6 days went from $6,000 market cap to $112 million market cap. And we saw the rise and fall of that token over the space of a couple of weeks. Fascinating stuff. But as part of that, once you start working in those circles, you then start to quickly meet a lot of people within, especially the BNB chain. I'm not sure. I haven't heard BNB chain mentioned too much around here, but it's very much, it's got a very bad reputation, to say the least.
Anyone on BNB chain?
No one, literally no one. So yeah. So I learnt a fair bit about what not to do with projects and the wrong people to work with. And that's how I actually came across the guys at Londex. So I've been working with the guys at Londex for about 4 months now, but knew about them mid last year. About August last year was when I first came across these guys. It's a team now of about 20 odd guys working in the UK, Australia, some in North America as well. And the way Londex came about was it basically started as a meme token called Baby London. And it was to celebrate the Ethereum hard fork back in August last year. And it was just a simple rewards token, Ethereum rewards, as an incentive for holding. From there, it then moved into creating a DEX and some other platforms on top of that as well. And has just evolved over time. It's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. It's had its hurdles working with BNB chain and with investors on BNB chain. But where we're at now with Londex is we are effectively building a private blockchain. And with that, we are working towards a regulated world and understanding what it's going to look like in 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be, and building a chain that is inviting to institutions as well as investors and people who just want to transact in a safe and easy to use manner. And on that, we're building a series of different products. The reason why we've decided to build our own chain is because we developed something a little while ago called Guardian AI. And the way Guardian AI essentially works is it monitors every transaction on the blockchain. And when it starts to pick out some suspicious activity from some wallets on the chain, it can then flag them and then perhaps even lock those wallets as well. So if you start to see, perfect example is, we've seen a lot of exploits recently on bridges, those sorts of things. Some of the wallets that have been responsible for that sort of stuff, a Guardian AI would have picked that and locked those wallets on a chain. So it creates, some people will sit there and say, that's not what this is all about. He's nodding right now. But we understand that, not everyone is going to be building on this chain, but we also need to understand that regulators are going to want some level of access to this in one way or another. So that's the reason why we're building this. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And, given the whole OFAC and Tornado Cash thing, I think it's important to consider that the going completely one way to just fully decentralize, it's not so black and white anymore. There are things that can happen. You can have the layer one chains, protocols be affected and almost be wiped out depending on what the government regulators want to do. So it is something worth considering and itching to come up. Come on down.
Do you want to come up?
Yeah, just come up.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Thank you for screwing up decentralization, by the way. There are a few lawyers in the House, very prominent, and they told me that you should not care about regulations, so I'm not really sure what you're doing. But I get your point, super important. How do you manage the multiple jurisdictions in a global setting and having, you know, that blockchain effectively have those rules encoded in a good way?
That's a challenge our COO is working on at the moment. So he's based in the UK. He's working closely with some people within the UK government, UK regulators at the moment to see how it looks there. At the moment, we're probably working towards some sort of framework that they're looking at establishing, because we know that what's more than likely going to happen here will be a very similar model to what they take on there. The US, we don't know where they're going to go. You can flip a coin on the way the US is going to go when it comes to regulation. We already saw with Tornado Cash. They just switch something off and don't worry about the repercussions. So the short answer is that's what Rick is looking after at the moment, but definitely at the moment we're working within the box of this is what the UK situation is going to look like, and perhaps thinking that that's the way the rest of the world will move as well. But it could be a moving target for sure.
Well, you know, it's interesting because, and we have these kind of, only over the course of an hour, these kinds of discussions. The last 4 weeks or so on our Twitter Spaces, which we do record except for the times when I forget to hit record, but we also download them, so we'll put them out on Spotify. So I hope, you know, doesn't matter if it's swearing, it's okay, whatever. But, you know, we go into these depths around like censorship and, you know, people on both sides, the ones that are decentralization maxis and everything should be decentralized, and what are the arguments for and against. We heard a really good one yesterday with this whole, you know, it should be freedom to code. You guys had heard about that? Like there's the developer, one of the developers for Tornado Cash went into jail in the Netherlands. They arrested him, and it's put into question this, like, we should have, like, freedom of speech, we should have freedom to code as well. Now, the difference with freedom to speech, and I never looked at it, and this is the interesting thing from talking to people, that's what this space is all about, getting different perspectives. Freedom of speech is like when you create, I don't know, something artistic. I paint something, it sits on a canvas, I can paint whatever I want, right? And it's freedom of speech. I don't know what the laws, I don't know if we have that kind of thing in Australia, whatever, but let's just say in the States, which is the global police, whatever. But freedom to code is different in a way because it's not like that guy just put out his code and it's something you can only view, you can't actually do anything with. People actually did something with it. There was conduct as well that followed, and that conduct in this case, had it not been for North Korea effectively being able to get $1 billion in assets that they weren't able to get through normal means, I don't think we would have had the clampdown that we saw there. In a way, you can argue that DeFi, decentralized finance, got lazy. It got lazy and it let this shit happen. If it didn't, if we had clamped down and been better ourselves at policing and watching this stuff and making sure it doesn't happen, maybe that kind of stuff wouldn't have occurred. The flip side, though, to contradict myself again, which is always fun, is that when you look at the size of things, I'm gonna try to do this thing like I did in Melbourne and do it really in an upside down way. Hands up who thinks normal TradFi money laundering is below 1% of global GDP. Hands up who thinks that money laundering just in TradFi is below 1% of global normal GDP. Okay? Okay, hands up who thinks it's above 1% but below 5%, so between 1 to 5. Okay, there's a few more. And the cars outside are also beeping too, so they think that. And then hands up who thinks it's above 5% or more. Okay, the majority. That's not bad. It's actually what the UN says is 2 to 5% is what their estimates are for global GDP that is related to money laundering. Now, when Chainalysis, and whether you want to, you know, I think there's probably ways that they could improve their analysis of this, but Chainalysis estimates that of crypto volume globally in 2020, it was 0.62% was related to illicit activity. In 2021, they reckon it was 0.15%. And now I haven't looked at how they actually do the measurements. They don't just say that everything in this bucket is illicit. They actually break it down. You can look at their crypto crime report, which is free to download. But it shows you that there is this difference there. But still, we don't have things, just that because it's bigger, we should focus on TradFi money laundering. They clamp down on crypto. So with that in mind, and the regulations and all the stuff that you're doing, where do you see Web3 heading over the next 12 months? What's your crystal ball? And we're going to hold you to it because this is investment advice. No, I'm just joking.
I think from a regulation point of view, we still won't have any black and white. It is going to be a moving scenario. I definitely think from a financial point of view, we're still going to be in a bear market over the next 12 months, which is maybe good for most of the people who've decided to build. I think the chains and the projects that are building with self-regulation in mind are the ones that are going to see the next 12 months out better than others. You can't just sit there and say, well, or you can say whatever you want. In my opinion, you can't just sit there and say, this is unregulated markets, this is how it works, because governments have whether you call it a right or responsibility or overreach to protect their citizens, they do, that's part of their mandate. So they will flag anyone and any entity at all that doesn't put itself in a position where it says we're doing the best we possibly can with the technology that we're using at the moment. So where do I see us in 12 months' time? I would say far less projects than what are around right now, possibly even a few less chains. You didn't mention it in your warm-up this morning, but earlier. Avalanche, I haven't read too much about it, but there's now some questions around whether Avalanche is actually a decentralized platform and what is actually going on there. So I think the next 12 months is going to be pretty interesting when it comes to the landscape and what projects and chains we still see around.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're kind of building a permissioned blockchain. Yep. If I'm a developer and I'm going to deploy something on chain, in traditional Ethereum, zero permissions, right, ever. At what stage do the permissions start kicking in within this workflow? Is it upon deployment? Once it's deployed, do the smart contracts need to have extra code in order to censor certain behavior? Is it at the bottom level? Sorry, it's a few questions. But once you get to that permission state and you have a certain amount of decentralization, then kind of goes back. Is there at least a general view on how you actually achieve this level of consistency in terms of making sure that the machines that are everywhere and the code that is everywhere is actually abiding by all of the rules that it needs to abide by? Because it's almost like saying that you have Ethereum that abides by no rules, which is simple. But then you have another blockchain that kind of needs to abide by every rule. And you have to find that intersect between all of the rules to make sure that once you deploy a contract, it's actually kosher everywhere. So I guess that can set a lot of constraints in terms of what you can actually do.
You can tell Arturo loves rules.
The best analogy I can give you is I've used this a couple of times before, it's like driving a car and having a driver's license. If you want to drive on the blockchain, you will need to have a driver's license and a registration. So that's effectively what we'll be doing. So the onboarding process will be going through that KYC process, the licensing process for anyone who wants to deploy. So the KYC process for someone who wants to invest and transact on there will be different to a project manager. Someone who wants to build smart contracts and layer 2s and those sorts of things will have a different sort of license, just like a truck driver versus a car driver. That's the best way I can describe it. The guys are still working out what that looks like, but that's the way we plan to do that. And then what happens from that point is once you're on, it's the same as driving a car. Once you're on the road, yes, you have a license, yes, you have registration, but there are still road rules that you have to abide by. And there will be instances, I would like to say there won't be, but there could be instances on our chain where an entity does the wrong thing. But with that in mind, we then have the ability to then say, who is the offender? How is that then regulated, or, you know, how do we manage that situation then? So like I said, it's definitely not a decentralized chain.
Do we have any audience questions? Oh, we do. Oh, we've got two. All right, we'll start from the left here, and then we'll work our way back, and I'm going to run back and forth.
Thanks. Wouldn't it, like being centralized and you being able to censor transactions and confiscate user funds kind of make you a custodian of those funds, given that you like have the ability to take custody of them and control them, unlike say a miner on Ethereum, which cannot censor those funds? And like, doesn't that potentially like oblige you to comply with various like regulations relating to financial custodians and things like that? How do you handle that?
Yes and no. Yes, in regards to yes, we can freeze funds and those sorts of things. No, as in one of the products that we are building will be an on-chain wallet as well. So when people hold tokens on the chain, they will hold them in their own wallet. So they do have that level of control. Yes, we can freeze tokens, I guess. We can enact those sorts of things, but it is, in our opinion, where we see regulation going is that there is going to need some level of intervention there. And look, we wouldn't want to do it, but in order to work with governments and have a long-term lifespan, we believe that that's something we have to do. But like I said, we don't want to be flicking that switch all the time. We are working at the moment, I know Tim, one of our guys who works on a lot of things, he's working on ways to, we spoke about Tornado Cash, I spoke to one of the guys on Discord as well, about having a layer of privacy on the chain where people can't see the transactions, but they can be monitored again by us in a central entity. We can see what the transactions are. If governments say, you know, for example, if there was an Axie Infinity with $600 million going missing, we can then go into those wallets and freeze them and those sorts of things. So it's a very grey area. I understand that.
One more question over here, and I believe a frozen token is called a froken. Is that right? Maybe not. Oh dear, here we go. Do better than me, Casey, please.
I'm just thinking out loud here, but one of the, you know, anyone that's familiar with crypto and the idea of decentralization is going to hear this and probably have the initial knee-jerk reaction of Arturo, which is, why? But if you think of it from people who maybe don't have the level of familiarity that we do, the first thing that comes to mind for me is, well, you know, one of the disadvantages of things not being centralized, not being KYC is the most recent pain in the ass that we've all had to deal with is tax, right? Have you thought about integrations with, okay, well, if you're going to have a chain that has KYC and you're going to be working within legal regulations, you're going to make sure that this is the chain that for someone that is not Web3 native and is not a DJ and they want to come on, they just want to know they're safe, they want a safe, clean way of getting involved in crypto, and come the end of the year they just want their tax returns to be safe and easy to do. Is that something that you've considered, and how far are you taking that sort of KYC and that level of regulation?
KYC, and there's seats, you can go upstairs, I think, if there's seats, or there's also seats at the front. Anyway, go ahead.
One of the very simple ideas that we've had with this chain is to try to build something that is easy enough for my mum to use. You're not going to get mass adoption by having the cumbersome UI, UX that we currently have. And some of the products that we are building up there have that in mind. It is very much about making it look like a normal website, making it feel like a normal website, and having that level of security, because if you're not going to get everyday people chuck tens of thousands of dollars onto the blockchain and go, well, away we go. And then lose it all and go, and then say, like the number of times I've seen people say, I lost $30,000, I lost $50,000, it's gone. Hopefully we can build something where we can offer that level of protection for people. And yes, we've got our products there, but what we really want to do is create an environment where people can bring their everyday business onto the chain and start using this chain for payments, for their own businesses, for those sorts of things. Rick, our CEO, is currently speaking with our yacht broker. A yacht broker.
Yacht, okay.
Yes. Yeah. And he won't mind me telling this story, but basically, when you're dealing with multi-million-dollar yachts in Europe, you do get some questionable sort of transactions happening from time to time. And he's always suspicious of a guy that wants to pay, $30 million and he wants to meet him offshore. And there's a lot of weird transactions that go on. So by having that level of security where he basically met him one day and this guy said he wanted to pay in stable coins, and Rick sat down with him and said, well, let me show you how this works. And he simply sat there and the guy was able to send $2.9 million in stable coins within 30 seconds. And he said, okay, I get it now. This is going to appeal to my business. So what we can do for him is then build in the levels of protection that he needs as someone who's dealing with millions of dollars every single day, but make it a very easy to use user interface for him too. But absolutely everything we do is about making this look as safe as possible. Like we use Guardian in the name for a reason. It's about making the whole chain look safe and be safe for everyone.
Fantastic. And Guardians of the Galaxy is my favourite movie, so I really like it just because of that. It's probably one of the better. Thor, Love and Thunder. No. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for coming up and telling us more about Londex. But if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Best way to get in touch with me would be through my Twitter or my email up there. And that's really it. So look, I appreciate that walking into a room of people that is, the Australian DeFi Association, and then talking about a centralized platform is not the easiest thing. So I just wanted to say thank you for everyone for being much more polite than I thought. I was expecting chicken wire here, maybe, like the Blues Brothers. So
next time we give people stuff to throw, but not for this one.
I think that was really ballsy. But for every developer here, I think that you need to follow that project. Not necessarily for the project's sake, although I do think that it's really important or interesting, but more so because every single developer has a risk now. And as an ex-trader, we would always have a lawyer sitting right beside before anything that we did. I don't see how developers are not going to need the same thing, at least at the deployment stage in the near future. So, regulation is a real thing. You have to be really, really careful.
Yeah, just in relation to that, one of the products there, Heimdall, is actually our insurance product. So what we're building is an on-chain insurance product, which will have people who want to build their own projects. There will be liquidity insurance and other insurance products associated with Web3. So you think of blockchain fraud and those sorts of things, which could get bigger and bigger, and people, being malicious actors against projects on chain. We're building an insurance product which will align with all that too.
Fantastic. And with that, thank you very much, Sam. I kind of need insurance because I totally forgot that I'm not supposed to be drinking tonight, but I was thirsty, so I'm drinking because I've had 2 straight days of it. I was going to not do it. If we go to the next slide, please. Jake from Mycelium, come on down. Everybody, welcome Jake from Mycelium. Actually, why don't you sit in the... Yeah, you can sit.
We can stand.
Yeah, we can stand. Let's stand. Yeah.
Sitting is like the new smoking, right? So
that's it.
We'll stand.
Very cool. So you got an announcement that you reached out to me to say that we wanted to go through some stuff. So can you please... Actually, before we do that, can you tell the lovely folks here what is it you do at Mycelium and what Mycelium is if you haven't heard about it?
It's a good question. So Mycelium, Australian company, started in 2018. been building blockchain technology in the Australian ecosystem, obviously, and globally, famous for DeFi. So it made sense to be here with you guys tonight. So thanks for having us. What do I do specifically? I do whatever Ash tells me to do. I'm head of growth, so I'm sort of helping the team grow. So I've been with the company for a couple of years as we've sort of grown from stealth to something that people can see and touch, and that's going to continue to grow in the future. So part of the reason for bringing that here is, you're the Australian DeFi Association. We are building probably the largest suite of DeFi tools in the Australian market. So it's only fair that we come and share some news of what happened in the last month. So like I said, foundationally, company's been around since 2018. Famous, perhaps, at least from our start, which was building infrastructure for Chainlink. And if you're not familiar with Chainlink, you've got blockchain technology with particularly Ethereum and sort of other competing technologies. You've got smart contracts. And smart contracts can't really resolve anything because it turns out they're not that smart. So they need to have data oracles come in and feed the information on how to execute. Chainlink is probably the largest in the ecosystem of providing those feeds into the ecosystem. And that's really where we started. So worth sort of sharing, as of the 1st of August, we have facilitated about 17.5 million transactions in DeFi. We're supporting 700 feeds in DeFi, and that's across 10 different blockchains. So not just Ethereum, but across the whole range there. So pretty major player in terms of the information that people are using to trade in DeFi. We also created a platform last year, launched, and if you're familiar with TracerDAO, later then Tracer, we were building a product called the Perpetual Pool, which was a primitive that was an alternative to the perpetual swaps. Successful in its own right, but we had a bigger vision, and that's the swaps product. So what we're going to talk about here is, on the 5th of August, we put a proposal to the community of Tracer to consolidate all of the products into one brand, which is Mycelium. Turns out that people really like the idea, 99.86% in favour. And there was a token migration so people could swap their Tracer for Mycelium tokens. We announced a partnership with Degen Score for traders because obviously it's fairly important. And one of the appeals of that as well is within Mycelium's perpetual swaps product, 70% of all the fees go back to the liquidity providers. So an incentive for people to come and provide liquidity, because without liquidity, there isn't much fun trading. Targeted about 25% APR for the first month. Turns out it's a lot better than that. So thank you for everybody who joined. And James, I see you back there. Thank you. And 10% of fees going back to traders. So extra incentive there. If we can go to the next slide. So on the 17th of August, which is 2 weeks ago today, we actually launched the Perpetual Swaps product, ability to go long or short with leverage on these assets, Ethereum, Bitcoin, Link, Uniswap, BAL, CRV, and FXS. So a stable array of blue chip DeFi tokens. If you're not familiar with them all, you can go and check them out in your own time. And excited to announce, does anybody know who Arthur Hayes is? CEO, co-founder, godfather of Perpetual Swaps for a start, and also CEO and co-founder of BitMEX. Announcing him as an advisor was a pretty exciting part of the launch, and supported by Bankless. Ryan and David have been long-term supporters and advisors to the project as well. So very exciting to sort of bring that together and generate a lot of interest. We can go to the next slide. For launch, we also had 10 million in liquidity in the pools. So, and this is US dollars, I should sort of mention that. It gets better. Hold your claps. So 10 million, good start, particularly for launch. So we can go to the next slide. So yeah, a bunch of things, like trying to coordinate these things is hard in DeFi, and trying to coordinate everybody and get everybody in alignment, but some exciting things. So getting on CoinGecko, so that makes sure that there is a source of truth for people who are trying to interact with DeFi, really important. The fact that we're launched on Arbitrum, which is where the majority of all of DeFi has centralized in terms of the liquidity and the trading volume on top of Ethereum, getting them to support us, which has been incredible as a partnership developing. Tokemak, on-chain liquidity provider. If you're not familiar, they supported it, so they migrated the Tracer tokamak reactor over to support Mycelium. DeFi Llama tracking and balance a proposal to move in and support with Mycelium as well. Next slide, sorry. So yeah, that's a bigger number. So 100 million US notional value traded in the first week of launch of the swaps product. Now that deserves a round of applause. So as that continues to grow, we announced a new lend product. So this is interesting, providing utility to the Mycelium token, where you can lend your Mycelium tokens to the treasury and get paid fixed interest of 8.5%. So it's an exciting part. People are chasing yield. They don't want to necessarily chase it down the rabbit hole into dangerous territory. This gives it a little bit more of a safer sort of control. We're also excited to announce Alameda Research as a partner. They came in and put in 5 million US to support us. So that's a vote of confidence. It also sort of demonstrates the level of integrity that we're attracting in this new product as well. Next slide, thank you. So we don't have the updated slide, but these are significantly larger. So today, being week 2, we can announce $290 million US in notional volume traded in 2 weeks. And generated, actually, that is an incorrect fee, 350,000 US in fees in 2 weeks. So in terms of success, we think we've found product market fit, or we don't think, we know the market has voted with their money, and we thank them for it. And so that is really an exciting part of the evolution. Building for a long time, struggling to find the exact sort of market opportunity or things to trade. It's been really hard and really noisy. All of the goings on in the DeFi landscape for this year have really sort of shown that the centralized landscape is difficult to navigate. It's pretty nerve-wracking because a lot of people lost a lot of money. One thing that reigned supreme of 2022 was DeFi. And so we're really proud to sort of build in that ecosystem. We just go to the last slide. So all of this to say, it's been a fairly successful month of August, but it's not an overnight success. It's a 3.5-year success at the very least. We've learned a lot on the journey. We've come a long way with a lot of people sort of supporting and helping out, and we appreciate that the team have had us here tonight to sort of share this, but it made sense given sort of the big numbers. So we thank you for that. I would also say that this is just a very early step of what we have planned. So the launch of swaps was a big one. Like I mentioned, the launch of the lend product is coming and being announced, has been announced and will be launching imminently. What comes next is really trying to simplify what DeFi means. We're in the weeds. We're building smart contracts on blockchain, supporting 10 different blockchains in our node business. We have an absolute understanding, but one thing we know to be absolutely true, it's too complicated. And you asked a good question before in terms of retail access and what this looks like. How do we simplify this? How do we get people to tap into this universe without being scared of it, without being intimidated by it, or without losing all their money? And so I think that's part of it. The vision of what we want to bring is we want to bring the suite of the universe of DeFi. We want to make it accessible. We want to put it in your pocket. And we want to be able to help people unlock that yield opportunity to be able to participate in this ecosystem without somebody taking all of that yield for themselves. That's, I guess, the centralized factor. And this is why we're big proponents of the decentralization. And also, there's just going to continue to be opportunities around this, and we want to be able to bring those to the market and explain to people. I think, ASIC put out a report fairly recently. Finder put out a report last year as well in terms of the amount of Australians that have access to crypto, participating in crypto, or people who are accredited investors or sophisticated investors who are accessing it. It's a big number, and it's only going to get bigger. DeFi 1 2020 proved that it's different to what people previously misunderstood to be crypto. It's not the logo on the back of a football jersey or slapped onto a car at Bathurst. It's what you can see and you can hold and you've got access, and it's on chain. That's what it really is, and I think that's what we're here to represent. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. I think that we have Web3 businesses and we have Web3 projects. right? You're obviously a business. And you've been in it almost since the beginning, right? So I think that something that would be really interesting for the community to hear is, how has that journey been? Like, can you compare that journey of building, transforming from project to actual Web3 business, and how that compares to your experience in Web 2, right? Web 2 versus Web 3 business.
Yeah, so I think I'd sort of break with sort of my experience within Mycelium to just more my personal experience. I've been around for a while. The first things I could fit down the internet pipes were music files, so peer-to-peer file sharing, and that's where I began my journey in the music industry. And so I think as you see these things disrupt, like the internet, like software will eat the world, right? Like that's just the reality. And I think as we've sort of seen those pipes open up to be bigger and greater and more things develop on the internet, including blockchain technology, we've just seen those things sort of evolve. And so as you get the opportunity to sort of see these things visited like in industry and disrupted constantly, it's not a surprise. You see it in 1, 2, 3 different industries, you start to realize that there is really a pattern and there's nothing you can do. It's an unstoppable chain. So the idea of sort of blockchain technology, for me, discovered it reasonably early, I guess, relative to where the universe was on that space. But I guess it's an empowerment to it, right? I think one of the things competing against the Googles and Facebook, which I did for a long time in the US on their product models in the media and the data businesses, was you really couldn't compete, and the moat for them was their tech stack, was their code base. And you couldn't do anything to disrupt it. It didn't even matter if it was any good or not. They just had that sort of moat in that business and continued to build. The shift with Web3 and the idea of open source code was it sort of opened that up. It reduced the barrier to entry, not just because of internet and the friction and the access, but it sort of created best practice, like the ability to build on Ethereum, which you've got to pay to play, and then you can build a smart contract on that, or you can fork code, or you can do a whole bunch of things. I think it's an entirely liberating experience. And so the journey into Web3, it wasn't Web3 that attracted me because it wasn't a phrase that anybody used when I got in. It was the access that it provided. And I think I ran product teams and worked very closely with our engineering teams at all these companies, and constant frustration for them was all the rules and restrictions and things that they had to sort of deal with, where this universe introduced an entirely new species of developer, which is like total empowerment. They could be at a trading firm in the back room, hidden in the closet, coding and doing all the hard work so that these firms could generate a lot of revenue, completely ignored. They might have found a friend who knew how to trade, leave, start up their own firm, and do MEV or something of that nature, and generate a lot of money and get paid for themselves and get the credit. And I think that sort of opportunity has sort of given rise to the developer at the forefront. And we see this with Ethereum all the time, and the Ethereum Foundation, and just the discipline they've got in. So I think that's the attraction.
Do you think that's going to change now, considering that there's so many big players, and on top of that, you have the cost of regulation kicking in properly? It's not going to be as easy as just, I have this idea, deploy the project and see what happens, YOLO into it, basically.
Yeah, look, regulation's always going to be a bit of a hurdle. The world has never seen this before. They've never seen regulation in financial markets sort of have a global sort of purview, whereas the internet sort of opened up. But we've seen certain countries block access to certain things over time, and I think that's likely we'll see that. And perhaps, like Ash gave a really good example of this a long time ago when I first joined, is like, what's the idea of the policing is like, it's, when you talk about the oceans and freight and just global trade, it's like they don't police the open ocean. They, most of the focus is around the ports. That's the on and off ramps, probably from an exchange perspective. We'll see a lot of that. Tornado cash and what's happening in that universe, and looking at that specifically is like blocking addresses probably isn't the right answer. There's probably going to be opportunities to challenge some of those decisions, but that will always be a challenge of how we sort of look at that. But I think if we're building the tools, we're doing it by reaching out to regulators and reaching out to governments around the world who are looking at this and leaning into it. I think there's a lot of open interest around that. I think it's a debate. I think that move in particular around Tornado Cash was, and if you haven't heard, there was a very good podcast with Empire, done by Blockworks, where Jake Chavinsky talks about this at length, actually, where they get into the idea that this was probably more to do specifically with North Korea and what was going on in that particular arena as opposed to Tornado Cash at all. And so I think people have got to be very careful of looking at, is this a blockchain block or is this a crypto anti-move versus is this actually a much more serious sort of outcome that we're looking at from, anti-money laundering or supporting terrorists. So that's a very complicated area. I'm not a lawyer, I have no clue. I wouldn't pretend to comment on it, but I think it's going to be a moving target. But we're going to do no benefit to ourselves if we try to avoid them and think that people can just go around sort of freely sort of operating that universe, leaning in, asking questions, participating in, sort of sandbox environments and, really looking for guidance is going to be critical.
I know that there are a few members in the audience that come from either they're building up their own protocols or their own businesses. Many of them have Web2 experience in terms of building these things up, and a big part of building up a business is the marketing side, right? So, head of growth, you've done it within Web3. What do you think about when you're building up the presence of a Web3 company across the community that perhaps would be different to how you do that in Web2?
That's a really good question. I think the mistake everybody makes in Web3 is thinking about the technology. At the end of the day, it's about the customer. Jeff Bezos said it perfectly well, and anybody who's coming from a Web2 environment knows this because you live or die on that basis. I think that's our obsession, is who are we serving? We're serving the customer. Who does the customer look like? That's going to sort of vary and it's going to grow, and there'll be different products for different sort of customer sets. But sort of getting obsessive with that experience, with that simplification, with that point of access is going to be really important. So when it comes to marketing, look, I think that's going to be a constant evolution. I mean, we've had to do a lot of things in terms of establishing credibility as builders, establishing credibility as people who are participating in DeFi, establishing credibility with reaching out to regulators and other sort of entities in the ecosystem. Like, there's establishment around our sort of corporate level identity, and then there is credibility around what value are we delivering? Like, how can we be held accountable? What can you see? What's the use of that? And I think that's sort of where we're at now. That's the gap. Is where is the consumer and how are they best served, and then how are we delivering that message? And so you're going to see us get really, really finally lasered in on that in particular.
Because I guess that you started off marketing or engaging with the degen community, and now as you go more mainstream, that message changes. It's almost like would it be fair to say that the ethos of the company changes in terms of how you're facing the market, because the market becomes a different beast, right? Not many Web3 companies have been able to, not that they've failed, but they haven't matured enough to be able to get into that corporate space, or let's call it the mainstream space. What's your strategy? What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it would be a mistake to say that we are going to move on or outgrow, say, a degen type of community. And I think also that just the tag degen is kind of a bit broad. I think that fundamentally, if you sort of really draw back to the question specifically on ethos, for us it's access. We didn't start building on Ethereum and building these tools because we wanted it to be limited to a certain subset. It's about access. It's about opening that up, the sovereign individual kind of mindset, but with more simpler and easier things to access that likely fits in within the universe that you live in, with whichever region of the world you are. So I think the ethos is important to maintain. Access is important. It's critically important. So many people either lack access or have it taken from them. We're familiar with rugs. If you've ever bought an NFT, you've probably been rugged. If you've bought an ICO, you've also probably been rugged. If you gave your money to 3 Arrows Capital, you definitely got rugged. So the idea, though, is how do you open that up and how do you broaden that and how do you attract those people? And I think for us, we've just got to get really, really focused on that experience. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to move away from degen necessarily. I think that the degen aspect of it might drop away when people stop thinking as crypto as gambling and post proof of stake, and as we move into a more mature landscape, I mean, we just saw BlackRock come into Bitcoin in a pretty major way. You can be sure they're not going to stop there, and they're not going to be the only player of that size or magnitude in the space. We already know who a lot of the players are, and there are more that are going to be announced, and so that will change the perception of it being gambling. And there'll always probably be pockets of it for sure, but like the credibility of that higher end of town will establish, and as it gets easier, the yield might sort of drop a little and it'll become a bit more sort of institutionalized in some component, but the ethos will remain the same. Are we providing access? Is it easy to access? And do you have control? And is it decentralized?
Very good. Any audience questions, please?
Hey, first of all, congratulations for all the success at finding PMF. But as the volumes of perp dexes are going up and up, like DYDX, yourself, and maybe GMX, how do you vision how regulation is gonna maybe interrupt operations with these perp dexes? And the other, my second part of the question is Arbitrum. I think it's the best choice right now in terms of speed and everything. Could you share some alpha for the airdrop when token?
So thank you for the question from the Space Bridge. The airdrop on Arbitrum, I wouldn't presume to know anything on that at all. We really like the team, they're great, and anybody building DeFi should think about having a look at that layer 2 for sure. There is no airdrop on the Mycelium token, plus everything I said before is not financial advice. The access is sort of a point there that, that will be one part of where regulation comes in. To the question of like the perp dexes in particular, look, I think there are a lot of people sort of taking caution. Like you'll probably see on things like DYDX, Mycelium, GMX and others, they don't offer like perpetual swaps products to people in the United States, for example, and they'll probably block a lot of other territories around the world where they're on sanction lists and things like that. So there is some degree of control or access being sort of rate limited with an expectation of what regulatory environments look like. So without any guidance, you just have to act in best faith to begin with your hand up saying, look, we want some guidance. Whether that looks like fully licensed environments in the future, look, I mean, anybody could sort of guess at that. I think, there was an event directly across the road on Monday night where the DFCRC hosted an event to sort of announce the launch. The big sort of news for that was around RBA getting into CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and what does that look like? And you had the governor of the RBA in attendance, you had the chairman of ANZ in attendance, and they talked specifically about the fact that they need to embrace this, they need to move there. And I think if you just, without me speculating on it, look, there's two of the most impressive people in this market when it comes to regulation and when it comes to banking and finance, and they're out there talking about this. ANZ is building on Ethereum, and they're talking about issuing a stablecoin, also built on Ethereum, and that is a huge vote of confidence. And so rather than hear me speculate, because no one really cares, I think you need to listen to those people more and read what they're talking about and how they're sort of articulating the ecosystem, and then look at what that sort of looks like from a competition perspective, because again, the world is paying attention and regulators are looking. Before they wanted to shut it down, then they were curious, now they're looking to round up the bad actors, and now they're looking to embrace it and provide access and regulate it so it's safe. So I think that's a really important distinction between fearing this state of constantly being shut down. I think we're past that point. Thankfully, I think we're now looking at a situation where credibility is visiting the space, and then we need to find a way to collaborate.
Hey, Jake. No, look, I just wanted to publicly say what a pleasure it's been working with Mycelium. A bit of background, the fund I look after we invested on like day 2 or 3 of this product. And I just wanted to publicly say thank you back. Like, thanks for the shout out, but thank you back. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. And it's really rare to have a product like this so open to talking to users and creating a bespoke product. So I'm excited to see what comes soon, but these guys are the real deal, so definitely give them a look. And I'll expect my check in the mail.
Any questions? We'll go to the next one.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.
All right, up on stage, Katrina. Everybody, Katrina Ali. Clap, clap, clap. Did you want to?
I asked for some whoops earlier.
Oh, okay. We'll try that one more time. Katrina Ali. Woo! That's the one that we'll edit in. Yeah, okay. All right, so there's all different sorts of people in this space, and I guess when Arturo and I first got into the whole kind of Web3 space, we thought, all the meetups, it's just going to be developers, it's just going to be... And they're cool because we come from the world of data analytics, data science, and when you go to those events learning about Power BI or what's the latest going on in Python and stuff, they're there to put you to sleep, and they do really well at that, even if you do understand it. But what's been most amazing in this space is that it does not matter where you have come from. We've noticed that in various kind of places that we've met people at, that others will say things like, and it was a curious kind of saying, we're not going to say where we heard it, which city, and we can actually say we've been to different cities, so we'll scramble it up. But we've heard people say that, it's so nice that in Web3, it's not just developers, you're giving other people a chance. Fuck no, sorry. It's not us giving other people a chance, it's us giving ourselves a chance to listen and learn from other different people, whatever they're working in, wherever they're coming from. Web3 is this new state where we can find ways that the puzzle pieces fit together. And so we're going to talk, your background is in marketing, Katrina, we're going to learn more about that, but it does not matter where you have come from, you have something to contribute in this space, okay? So I just want to make sure we get that message across. But Katrina, before we get started, how and where did you get started noticing Web3, and where was that kind of initial kind of view that drew you into this space?
Thank you. Initially, I actually started very much in TradFi, so I was in stocks, very naturally drawn to tech stocks, loved all of that, and then I was told, you better get 10% of your portfolio into Bitcoin. And coming from that research, no, I've got to research, where's their financials, how do I look at that, what am I doing, what do I know? No, get 10% of your portfolio into Bitcoin. I did. And I bought it at 8,000, so I was very lucky in that, and I never ever did not do research again after that, but I was very lucky. So I was definitely in that TradFi, came over, had all this research background, but then thought I have to go down the rabbit hole. I think like Sam was saying, get in, go down that rabbit hole and start looking and seeing what's going on. So I almost became very much a Bitcoin maxi, and then I stopped. I still love my Bitcoin, but I then thought, okay, what is going on here? I'm really interested, because I was drawn to tech normally, I'm really interested in what this space has to offer, and I really wanted to get into what they were talking about, because I had no idea. So I was looking at Oasis, I was looking at these, different quant, all these ones. I'm trying to figure out, what do they do? And their wording, their talk, it was very degen at the beginning. I was like, I have no idea, I'm about to leave. I thought, no, I persisted. And this happened so many times. And then I thought, there's something here, because I just wanted to simplify it. So it took me 2 weeks to research and figure out what my first coin was doing. And I put out a little social media thing on, basically in about an elevator pitch. But I think I did like a little elevator pitch that us from Web 2 could understand. I really wanted to make that more understandable. And that's how it all started. So developing from there, I'm like, okay, there's more and more of this. Then it came more into, I know we have the Women in Web3 event, but it very much became as almost like a vertical to get women into the space as well, because I was sitting in Clubhouse chats and I was the only female in there. Then when we got to the Twitter spaces and all that, and I was still the only female in there, which I don't mind because that's just how it is. We do tend to sit back a bit. But then I'm like, no, we need more women in here, especially the fact that I'm very much an advocate that women come in with their own bags. So guys, get your partners, get whoever it is, your wives, your girlfriends, your mistresses, whoever, get them in, get them, yeah.
I just saw on that.
I heard something going, oh, I should get the mistress in. So it's get them earning their own coin and bringing their own bag, because honestly, that was very much something I wanted to concentrate on and get down that rabbit hole and make us understand as well. I come from a very corporate background. I am in marketing, I'm in architecture and design, but having that corporate background meant that I needed to speak to those people because they are the majority. If we want adoption, we want to speak to those people. And that's when I went, okay, I've got to do something about this.
Fantastic. You mentioned there at the start, feeling like you have no idea. Hands up here in the room who gets those feelings time to time, or all the time, that they have no idea what's going on in this space. Come on, be honest. Be honest. Okay, there we go. So, it's okay, because you feel like you have no idea, then you go research, you feel a little bit better, then you go do something, whether that is investing or whether you are building and doing stuff. Now, interestingly, you've started a company and you're diving into this space, and from what I can see is you're bringing a lot of the people that know you from TradFi. So there's two things. You've got the company, you've got that started around marketing, but there's also Twitter Spaces that you guys are well known for, and you've got some interesting women that are in that. Can you tell us about the company and also the Twitter Spaces stuff that you're doing?
Okay, thanks. Okay, so with all of that, I thought I would start blockchain marketing company. And the reason I wanted to start that was because the people early in projects and got these great ideas, helping them get messages across. Because the two sides you really need when you first start a project is legal and marketing. They should be your two first ones, because you want to get that positioning out, you want to get that message out properly to people who can understand and who can grasp it straight away. I've met with so many people early on in their projects, it's taken them an hour to explain to me what their project's about. No, I need an elevator pitch, I need you for 3 minutes, I need to understand and I want to grab it and I want to invest in it. And the ethos with blockchain marketing company as well is we're not going to be taking on anybody that we don't believe in the product ourselves. So we're going to personally back. I do have a partner. She went and had a baby on me, so it's all just, lots of things have just, been a bit inconvenient for me. But it's, it's all part of it. So the social media side, all that sort of thing's really going to ramp up soon. But it was more, I met these people, we wanted an elevator pitch from them and they couldn't give it to me. So that's what we're working very early on with these people. And also, and this is a big reason why I came to you guys, is we wanted to pick apart the projects. And this is what you guys are great at asking all these questions. Oh, geez, yeah.
Picking apart projects, we just pointed to you. Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. And as any developers, any guys with projects, get someone to pick it apart, welcome it, because you'd rather it now than later on. Anyway, so that's blockchain marketing. And it's very early on, but it is trying to bring in that normality for everyday people to understand, because who is going to adopt it? The degens are already in it and they're doing their own thing. We don't need them, we need everyone else, because it's 2% of the global population are in crypto, 22% are in Australia. Of Australia's population is 22%. 2% is global. It's this big. It's like tiny. So we need to speak to those people, and in order to speak to it, it's the language we use. So that's that part. From there, we do the Twitter Spaces. So I've got Jessica Amir from Saxo Markets and Paula, who also has a mining company as well. Really weird, but mining and crypto are so similar. Like, no, seriously, I was looking at it and I wanted to do it because you think of these mining companies and they're out there and they're looking for, you know, minerals like lithium at the moment, and it's like, oh yeah, we found a bit. This is a great idea. So you liken it to crypto. This is a great idea. Let's go. Let's see if this is going to work. And yes, your payday is when they get their mining license and produce all of this, same as crypto. So that's why I likened it to that, and that's why a lot of the people on my social media, on my Twitter especially, is the fact that a lot of them are in the ASX and mining, because I was diving into that. But we do that. That's one Twitter Spaces we do. So I'm trying to get the message across with crypto, with all facets of crypto, all facets. It's not just because I'm trying to explain all the different things. That NFTs just aren't JPEGs. They're not right click and save. They're all, you know, getting all of that across as well. So there's that. Then the other Twitter, so that's one Twitter Spaces. The other Twitter Spaces is with, she's blockchain savvy and she's crypto savvy. So we started that one, getting more women into, and not just women, but we sort of talk about it. As I said, I walk into a room, look here, like we're 90% men, you know, which is fine, which is great, because you guys dive in first. 85, okay, sorry. But you guys dive in first. We just stand back. We're like, yeah, let's just see what mistakes you're going to make, and then we'll come in and we'll make it better. You know, so like it's how women work. It's okay. So then we don't want to make, because there's so many women in the NFT space, we want to make it, that's great, but we want them in the DeFi space. We want them in the blockchain space. So that's that side of things as well.
It's really interesting. So Arturo and I went up to Brisbane and we had the female leaders in Web3 kind of event. And one of the panelists had mentioned there that, you know, it's okay to, you don't have to worry too much about coding and development. And maybe from their perspective, they'd seen that that wasn't necessarily the pathway to glory in whatever space, whether Web3 or not. But it's funny because Arturo had mentioned that some of the best coders and developers and even traders that he's worked with have been women. And I believe that this is a space, as I mentioned at the start, it brings all walks of life together. And you mentioned there at the start, marketing and legal. Where are all my lawyers or people that work in legal? Can you put your hand up? Come on, be honest. Come on, get your hands up. All right, so look at them, okay, because they're people you want to talk to. Marketing, who here is working in the marketing space? We can put our hands up, I guess. All right, and Jake, so, you know, you've got people to talk to after this, okay? So, and Twitter Spaces is really interesting. I mean, you guys have been doing it a little bit longer than us. We're both learning from each other. Katrina was the one that mentioned to us that I didn't realise that Twitter Spaces deletes after you've recorded it. It deletes after 30 days. So we've been downloading them so that we don't lose the great insights, and, you know, at least when the judge goes, well, did you really say this? We can point and show that we didn't actually say whatever it was. So, you know, it's good in the court of law. But, you know, where to next for you? Like, what is coming up for you guys? What's on the upcoming horizon, the crystal ball for you guys?
By the way, I was in a Twitter Spaces with Twitter Spaces the other day, and they are looking to solve the problem of the 30 days. So that's a good thing, yay. And more icons and noises. That's really weird. So you're going to have clapping, you're going to have, they're bringing the 100 back. So I got a little excited. But anyway, what's happening next? So I have 2 projects personally I'm working on. 2 and a bit. So one is a DeFi project. So I'm very interested in seeing what you guys and learning from you guys as well. DeFi project, a move to earn project, and I am part of the the group that are doing a real estate NFT project. So that's in Dubai, that's overseas, so that's really cool and fascinating, and half of it just over my head, but I'm the one who's bringing it down and talking to people. So that is huge, but then also work, and then the 3 verticals in blockchain marketing are the education, because I believe that's what's going to get us over the line. Ultimately, the goal at the end of the day is that we don't even know, these guys don't even know what they're using crypto. That is the goal at the end of the day. But to get to that, we need to educate the people on what that is and it's not scary, and bring it on. So education is one, the marketing of projects is another, and the other one is community. And that was what brought me here. And I'm really thankful for you guys as well, because you've welcomed me so easily and allowed me this platform as well, and to help out. Because I'm normally on the other side. I'm not, I do like to interview more than be interviewed. So there's that. And then just meeting and building the community and going a little bit more. On the sense of adoption, though, one of the things, and the government, I just wanted to mention this. There was something today that I was listening to on a podcast, that regulation, all the regulations at the moment are made for banks. They are all geared to banks. So how do we then, that made me think, so how do we then, are we looking at changing that sort of thing? Do we want to change the regulations, or are we adapting to regulations? Do we adopt to regulations? Because that's what it is at the end of the day, it's for them. It's like when horses were there and they had to change to adapt for the cars to come on the road. So I'm not that old, but still, yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, hang on, that made me think of that side of things, going, well, and then all the tokenization, they're looking at the tokens. There was the other day how the government are talking about token mapping, that's it. Well, who's doing that? I want to know who's doing that. So I want to see who's doing that, and what do they know about crypto? What do they know about tokens? How are they getting their information? Who are they getting their information from? So all of that to then bring that education in. That's it.
I think on the token mapping thing, what's really cool in Australia is that the regulators, they do send their people out to events like this. So you never know who in the room you could be talking to that is interested in this kind of stuff. So it's really cool to see. I mean, it's such a global thing where I don't think that crypto and all the things that you and I have been able to do would have happened had it not been for technology evolving as it has. So it's really interesting. I think we're going to see a lot more. And if you guys aren't looking out for those Twitter spaces, there is a calendar. So just like we've got a calendar for meetups, there is a calendar that's been created by John from NFT Sydney, another group, and that has a calendar out there for Twitter spaces. So I don't know if you guys are on there yet, but you need to reach out to him to get yourselves on there. And just on that other note, if you guys are interested in fintech, Adam Keynes, who is from Ernst & Young, has created a fintech calendar that looks not too dissimilar from what we've created for Web3. So people have been inspired by what we've got, but it's Web3 and it's automation and all that, but we're still doing a very manual. We're not RSS scraping the Meetup feeds and Eventbrite and stuff, and we should do that. And if anyone wants to help out with that and make it more automated for Oz DeFi, please do reach out to us, because we are going to want to make life a little bit easier. I have 0 time left, apart from, maybe 4 hours sleep a night, and yet there's still so much more to do. So I would love all the help that we can get, and we're getting it from Katrina already. I know you're always on this side of the mic, but I thought we'd just flip the tables and get, you over here. So thank you so much. Everybody thank Katrina for that interview. All right, so we're coming up to the close. Let's go to the next, probably have to move it. There we go, other announcements. I don't know if we've got any, keep going. QR code, if you've missed it, get your phones out. When Power App, we don't have the Power App thing. It's been funny the last 2-3 times that we've tried it. It's either not worked. Actually, you know what? we've found that it hasn't worked when it's not up on like the big screen. Just having the POAP thing just off the phone. I don't know, I've got to talk to Steve. Sorry, Steve, we're not trying to downgrade POAP. I'm sure it's easier, but we probably can do POAPs here easily in our event. But yeah, it's just been a bit of an issue. But if someone in the room wants to take care of doing the POAPs, because that adds another 20 minutes to my time, Simo helps out wherever he is with POAPs sometimes. So yeah, there's that. Let's go to the next one. Oh yeah, so it's thank you, but before we get into that, damn it, I went too early. Can we go back quite a few slides? Let's go back to the NFT one. I've got questions for the audience actually, because what I want to find out, guys, is like, there we go. I don't have to look there. There's a freaking reflection. I don't know why I keep looking there. It's just there. So we've got a few, now I actually have to look because I can't read backwards. So we've got the creative, the developer, the analyst, so someone's looking at the charts and stuff and maybe they're doing it for trading, the degen, whatever you want that to mean, and the community builder, right? I probably put my hat on more from the community builder side, even though I do some of the other ones. But just by show of hands, I'll run through the names, and this is, we're not holding you to it that you can only, we're going to take a photo and you can only get that NFT. You can buy all of them. But like, just by show of hands, who feels like they are, and you've got to pick one, who feels like they are more the creative out of the group that's there? Interesting. And what about who feels like they're more the developer? Put your hand up, Arturo. There we go. Developers, okay, very cool. The analyst, someone that's looking at the charts, the numbers, of course. Your boss isn't watching, Pratik, so it's okay, but yes, I agree with that. And Cam. The degen, where are my degens at? All right, Howie upstairs, Jake, very cool. And finally, with me, the community builders. Who are those? Katrina and myself. A lonely camp, but you know, we do this out of love and sacrifice, so thank you very much, that's awesome. So those NFTs, we're going to continue to work on those. There's going to be some more announcements coming out, and not to put pressure on Simo, but we're going to be working on, you know, the different traits that people can buy into. I'm going to be taking care of the hoodies and stuff, but you know, we are fast tracking all of that because we have hit that 1,000, so that people don't think it's a rug pull, you know, like, so we're gonna do it. And it's gonna be very affordable. I know we didn't talk about the price, but it's not gonna be like 1 ETH is, you know, the floor price. It's gonna be something much lower, maybe 0.9 ETH. So there you go. And then what was the last thing I wanted to mention? Okay, so another kind of survey thing, because we're always interested in this, because people talk about in the market, you know, before when it was the bull market, I was just on AusBiz today talking about this, and they were asking me what's the difference between the bull market and like where we are now and where we're heading. And the bull market, it was any project was getting money. We knew people, Arturo and I knew people that it's almost off the back of a napkin. Yes, they knew the VCs, but they merely had an idea. And then it turned into you needed a really good pitch deck because now the market's getting more mature. Then it turned into you need a good proof of concept and maybe even an MVP. Now it's like you need traction. You need to show growth. It can't just be that MVP, and that's what we're seeing the VCs going into. But just given that, like, who in the room is building something on their own or with a few teams? Okay, there's a few builders here. That's amazing. And who is part of a team? So you should still, like, who's working in, yeah, okay. So there's quite a few people in the room. You guys really important in this space, because whatever you guys develop, you need to understand that this is what people are going to use not too far down the track. We were speaking with, you know, Jake, with what you guys are doing there, and Sam and Katrina. It's very rapid, right? Like in this space, what usually would take in fintech 2 or 3 years to get the insights for and to go to market takes a couple of months. So it's this great big experimentation. We're always keen to be learning what people are doing. Please come talk to us. What we're going to do now, okay, if you haven't come to our events before, is we're going to wrap up and we'll say goodbye to the people online. And Chris, can we throw to the crowd so that people can see online? So wave to the camera, the GoPro that is right there. There's all these lovely people, like seeing you guys there on that GoPro, and it's also recorded as well. So, you know, we'll get this out on YouTube. But typically we get this, we go to the Republic. So as you exit out here on Bridge Street, just up the road, so Bridge and Pitt. There's a rooftop there. It's usually empty on a Tuesday and Wednesday, so we get to take over a little bit, and they've got food there too. Normally we would have had pizzas, but because of the train and traffic situation, Domino's wasn't answering their phone, wasn't taking my orders. Domino's rugged me, basically. So sorry about not having food for this event, but there is food up there. So we're going to pack up. I would really appreciate if you guys, whatever you've carried in with drinks and stuff, please do take that back outside and put it in the bin just where you got the drinks from. And if anyone wants to kind of stick around and help us like stack the chairs and all that, that'd be great. But that's the August meetup. We're going to do another one in September. And if you want to go to CryptoCon, please do let me know and I'll help you sort it out. Cheers.